Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm late to the game on my reviews, but I just wanted to give my review of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Had to give it time until I was able to go see it. I've been seeing Ghostbusters Afterlife quite a bit, but saw it the other day, and I gotta admit, it's not perfect, but it's also not terrible. I know there's a divisiveness, even more so right now, over the film of people saying it's nothing like the games. It's absolutely nothing. I'm like, but for me personally, it is like the game, but I feel like using the term adaptation nowadays is it's 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 just not the way to say it. It's more of a movie version of the first two games merged into one movie. It works as a movie. If you know nothing about the Resident Evil games or you've never seen the Mila Jovovich movies and you're a big 80s, 90s horror fan and you like zombies, this is a pretty good movie for you to go see. And it doesn't really do justice to some of the characters, but I can understand the changes. Um but I was going in with very low expectations. I was very optimistic, but I was also excited to see it. And it feels like this movie was more made for the 90s, even though it takes place in 1998, which is when the games were released. But it has that feel of if this was released in the 90s, this movie would have made bank. Honestly, this movie would have made bank, considering the budget of it's 25 million, 5 million less than what Paul Anderson's first film from 2002 was made for, which I don't believe. I think that movie was probably 50 million. I think I remember him saying it was half a million, but the budget didn't work well for this movie. What the movie gets right is it gets its tone right. It has that, even it really is low budget. It gets the B movie, what the games were inspired. It gets that right. I like the different uh, angle they went with the zombies, where they were inspired by the itchy, tasty diary that you get in the original, where it was just one person, but everybody else feels the symptoms like that one person. Even though there are questions like, why not go to a doctor? I'm not really gonna do a spoiler thing here. I'm pretty sure mostly everybody has seen it by now. Um, but it has a feel of Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, especially Return of the Living Dead, because the movie opens up showing the time, showing the month and date and year, and it kind of does that throughout. Of there's a time frame. It's a ticking clock. I kind of like that, and it really brought me into remembering how funny, but also there are parts that are creepy, which Return of the Living Dead did have. It has humor in it. It really does. There is really one funny part where you're scratching your head and like, well, even with headphones on, couldn't you have heard that noise, that big noise? It's very clearly saying that it is a 90s. It's in the 90s. It's like nobody talks like that. But then again, in the Resident Evil games, nobody talks like that type of person, such as Barry. And that's the thing. The movie is missing Barry. It is missing Rebecca. It's missing a lot of key characters. And it works, but it really doesn't work. And how the movie infuses Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, again, like I said, it works for the movie. But as they keep going from the mansion, going to the police station, orphanage, to the mansion, of seeing those events happening at the same time, I kind of want more of the mansion. The mansion just looks incredible, even though it is scaled down a little bit. It is scaled down considering the budget that they were working with. Um, I still liked it. Of course, their rooms don't look like other parts of the room. rooms from the game. I really can forgive it. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, I understand everyone's anger toward this movie, disappointment toward this movie, even though when they saw the trailer, they didn't like what they saw. They immediately went in hating it. But I can understand that because in the back of my mind, I was thinking that I'm like, oh man, I'm really a chill person, but I can understand that they could have done. They had so many opportunities of what they could have done. This movie could have really have just been the mansion, and then the second movie really should have been Resident Evil 2 and 3 because the time frame of those two games are off by maybe an hour, I think, maybe 2 hours if I can remember correctly. But yeah, like there were so many missed opportunities. But I was never bored. I was really engaged by it. But I'm not going to say that I was not rolling my eyes or I was not saying, "Okay, what the fuck was this?" Like why would that happen? Why would this happen? I was okay with some of the character changes. Now, as for the elephant in the room, Leon, the actor himself, I remember him from Victorious. He's a really good actor, and he did bring his A game to this of the character he read for, and he did a pretty good job. He works for the movie, but as the character of what he's based on, it just did not work. It really didn't work. And I know that's really pissing a lot of fans because the big popular character throughout the whole entire Resident Evil franchise is Leon. And then that's really a fact. Mostly everybody who became a big Resident Evil fan was probably from playing Resident Evil 4, which was the biggest game changer back in 2004, 2005. But yeah, he's the big character. But I can see where the director was more going from the Leon from the original games. Even the freaking title screen when it pops up with Resident Evil is the same title of the old school Resident Evil games. The movie has the look of the remakes, but it also has the tone of the original games. Now, however, the movie, like I said, how it's getting negatives, and I understand those negatives. All I have to say is that, well, what did you expect? What did you expect? I wasn't expecting a masterpiece. I was expecting to see something that's close enough and that I can see that they were doing their damnedest to be faithful to the video games, even though things get muffled up, but they were wanting to do a movie version. Not only that, since I've watched the film, and I remember in my previous video that I made of the Romero script, it feels like they took some inspirations from that Romero script and they put it in. Because I know there are a few people out there that say, man, that Romero script is actually a lot better than Paul W. Anderson's uh, movie for 2002. And honestly, it isn't really because he did a lot of changes as well of the source material in that Chris Redfield is a Native American. He's not part of the STARS unit. Jill Valentine is an undercover cop. They are a couple. Wesker and Barry are like cool type best friends in that script, and Barry and Wesker die in the end. But then again, this was back in 1998 where George Romero was making the script, and he only had two games to go off of. He didn't have what we have now, which is a long range of games. So that I can understand. This one, again, I'm repeating myself. I sound like a broken record of big missed opportunities. But I feel like it's kind of childish for some to go and watch this movie and then say it really offended them and they wanted to walk out of the theater or they did walk out of the theater. Come on, man. Come on. It's just watch the movie. You paid for it. Yes, granted, it's like, well, it's my money. I demand a refund. You know, customers always right, blah, 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 blah. Give it a chance. Watch it all the way through. I'm not saying your opinion would change. Your opinion would probably be the same as you went in or as you saw it. Just, we've had 6 movies previous of it really staying away from the source material. Where the first two films, to me, in my opinion, they worked. The first one more so because it felt like it was in the same universe, even though it didn't use the characters. Like that mansion, they never say in the 2002 version that it's the Spencer Mansion. It could have might as well been another mansion around the Arklay Mountains that had also an underground facility, which we know from Resident Evil 1 and 2 and 3 that there are quite a bit of underground facilities in Raccoon City. Um, I mean, it worked. And then have one single character that meets up with the video game characters, but what killed it is that with those films, they just fully focused on this one character instead of the characters that we all know. And they really did those other characters dirty. Really, really dirty. Especially Jill got done dirty. Claire got done dirty. Pretty much almost all the other characters got done dirty and just were cheaply cosplayed. Now, granted, those movies are popcorn action nonsense. They're just they have an audience, but what really pisses me off is that that audience didn't get a good conclusion in the final chapter. Even though I've only seen the final chapter once in theaters and I can't really remember that much of it. I wouldn't even say it's like, oh, it's an action-packed film. I can't say it's action-packed because I couldn't see what the fudge was going on that whole entire movie. But yeah, we've had 6 movies of really hardcore Resident Evil fans being disappointed. They still went to go see it. Some of them still went to go see it. I wouldn't say, oh, I can't speak for the whole Resident Evil fan, video game fan community. But I will admit that those movies have their merits. Like there are cool action sequences. But then again, the movies were ripping off The Matrix, Mad Max, so many others. The movies were just rip-offs, just action nonsense. Pure eye candy. And that's fine. It's like if you like it, that's fine. It's just that finally we got one that was actually doing something that's okay to me. To me, I'm like, as long as you're in the universe, you have the basis story. Granted, there are going to be changes, but it really felt like a movie version of the first 2 games, even though it really shouldn't have been. That's my biggest problem. I could I know that they can never ever have the characters be the same. It's the same thing with comics. Uh, the Punisher, Dolph Lundgren, looked like the Punisher, but he never wore the skull. And the times he didn't really feel like Frank Castle. He kind of had the look, but he didn't really feel like Frank Castle to me. Thomas Jane had the edge. Ray Stevenson had the look. He was the look. But the perfect Punisher is John Bernthal because he's all three. And I knew that these guys wouldn't be. They don't look like the characters we played from the games. Some of them kind of act like it, a little bit, but they're just for this movie and what works for this movie. I really like Chris Redfield and Claire Redfield, but and of course it's a nitpick, and it's a nitpick everybody pretty much has said. I'm sure of, is why didn't she just put her hair in a ponytail? It's like why didn't she just put her hair in a ponytail? It would have been much better if she did, but whatever. She made Claire more of a badass, which I was fine with, and it kind of makes me laugh though that some say that she's not a conspiracy theorist, blah 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 blah. I'm like, as the games go on, she kind of is, especially in the Degeneration uh movie and what we see of her, especially in the Netflix series, which didn't need to be an animated series, should have just been a movie. Infinite Darkness. She's a truth seeker. She wants to find out the truth. She's an investigator. She wants to prove all these dark secrets that Umbrella has done. And in that Netflix series, she's trying to prove of what Tricell is probably up to, and she does, and then I won't spoil anything. If Go ahead and watch it, even though that's a series that pretty much did Claire dirty as well. I wanted more Claire Redfield. Uh, but no, it's like I enjoyed the difference of what they did with Wesker here, even though it's really laugh out loud funny in some moments of really being cringe and eye rolling. But it didn't. When I say cringe and eye rolling, it didn't piss me off. It made me laugh, and me and my lady were laughing. We went with a couple of friends of ours, and they they played the games, but they like the other movies. They didn't really care for this one. They thought it was meh. That they wouldn't see it again. They rather watch the Paul Anderson movies, which is fine. I'm like, okay. But to me, I would rather watch this one than the 2002 version. However, if I want to watch one that has style and and just pure action, I'll watch the 2002 version. But as for this one as being an adaptation, and I can see where they're going with the changes as a movie, I liked it, and I'm gonna go be seeing it. I'm gonna give it another watch today. Um, I'm gonna upload this fast. I won't have that many pictures uh for my slide, but my I'm tired. I'm sorry. I'm really tired, guys. Overall, my verdict for it is a 7 out of 10. As a fan, critically wise, it's probably either like a 5 or a 6 for a critic. But as the fan in me, who really, I mean, after those 6 movies, and they were never ever gonna do anything right, this is the best that was given to me as a fan. And I understand everybody else out there who did not like this movie and will blatantly say it's just garbage. Like, what the hell were they thinking? Why did they do this? Why didn't they? What they should have improved? Why didn't they stick with one movie? That I can completely understand. But the reality of it is, Hollywood just sees what's popular and saw that the first video game is popular, but the second video game was even more popular. Let's combine those two. We'll make a profit. Put in all those characters, and that's about it. And let the writer go wild. But I feel like the writer pretty much put himself in a box uh, that he couldn't get out of trying to put was on screen. And that's another thing. If you do go see the movie, is it feels like there are things cut out of this movie that he probably did have that they had to cut, because I read up that there were reshoots, that the budgeting was a mess. I mean, 25 million, and they really should have went with practical effects. They really should have, and had CGI only for a helicopter scene, and of course for the big monster that you see in the trailer that really looks like shit. But yeah, I don't know. He says if he does make another one, that'll be Code Veronica, and it's like, okay, that's cool. I kind of hope he does, so that way he can improve, get a bigger budget from what I've seen of this one. I know others will say no, 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 don't, and you're probably right. He probably won't make another one because so far the money he's getting back from this is $13 million on a $25 million budget. That's bad. That's really bad. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll get another one for it. Maybe when it comes out on DVD, because it's going to be an instant buy for me on DVD and Blu-ray. Maybe it'll make its money then, because that's what happened with the 2002 version, is that it made big, big, big bucks on the DVD. That, okay, let's green light, let's do a sequel. And then they made Apocalypse, and then they kept on going and going. But yeah, overall, I mean, the the divisiveness of this movie with a lot of fans, I completely understand. I know where everyone's coming from. I'm just not coming in with a whole lot of hate, just because of what we've all been through, going through those last six movies, and then also hearing about this Netflix live action series that has nothing to do with the games. I'm just meh. It's like I don't want it. I'd rather have something that is literally trying. Literally, it's trying. I can see what they're doing. Granted, they could have done better. They should have went this other route. But at least I'm seeing somewhat of what I wanted to see. Whereas the other adaptations, I wanted to see something, and they just didn't give it an execution. It wasn't executed perfectly. So yeah, my review, my rating for this, it's a 7 out of 10. I wouldn't say go out and right away and watch it, but if you're really curious and if you love zombie movies, if you love Carpenter films, and old throwback movies that are really really shitty but you love them, go to a matinee. Go to a matinee for this movie. Give it your money's worth, or if you have Movie Pass, I hear that's coming back. Go out and watch it, or just wait for it to hit streaming because rumors are that it might hit streaming within maybe a month or two. Just wait for that, or rent it, whichever you guys want. Now, please leave a comment in the please leave please leave your comment. Let me know what you thought of it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you cry like a big baby and throw your popcorn at the screen and say this is not my Resident Evil and storm out of the theater? If so, okay, let me know. It's like, okay, you did that. That's fine. Act like a child. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, guys. But yeah, no, let me know what you thought. If you agree, if you disagree, again. Um, do you think the Resident Evil franchise for movies and cinema is completely dead? Or do you want to see more from this director? Are you more excited for the Wesker Children show that's coming for Netflix? Or what? Anyway, guys, if you like my reviews, please like, share, subscribe. Um, Thank you so much for listening to my voice. Uh, I will try and do my best to do a video of me like I used to. It's not much I can do with this visage of a face, but either way, you guys take care. You guys be safe. Have a great holiday season, and peace.